Hello again, YouTube. We're back here to review episode 4 of the Last of Us HBO show. And let me just start off by saying I think tonight was my favorite episode. I always have my complaints as a diehard fan who is biased towards the games, but I think tonight was very well done and hit me in spots. I know episode 3 was praised a lot last week, and I have my video game biases on last week of preferring the Ellie and Bill interactions and wishing that we got those, but I think the changes that they made this time work out pretty well, and let's get into it. So the episode starts off with Joel and Ellie siphoning some gas for the truck, and then we get introduced to Ellie's little joke book, which is awesome, and I love her jokes in the game, and I am glad that they are making their way into the show. And more so throughout the entire episode of this, we got more of Ellie's jokes, and so I hope that they continue to pop up throughout the future episodes like they do in the game, even though most of the jokes take place in this section. But there are some parts that I am sad aren't in there, so I'll be getting into some spoilers for the game. Before we get into that, I will say that what the show did tonight was amazing, and it just really strengthens the fact that I think you should both watch and play the game, because you're getting the overall same story, but then there's aspects to both that have their strengths. I appreciated we got a little bit more of a backstory to Joel and Tess and Tommy after the outbreak, and when Joel had joined the his kind of group version of the Hunters, where he took advantage of innocent people, just while him and Ellie were making their way to Wyoming to try to find Tommy. But then another thing that I guess I really enjoyed is we got the Hank Williams song that plays. That's from the game. I thought that we might not get this fun little car ride scene of Ellie finding the tape and asking Joel if it makes him feel all nostalgic, and then she pulls out that magazine, which, if you guys have played the game, you know, and gets to ask Joel some awkward questions. So I'm glad that we got that scene, because I kind of thought that they had already wrapped up all of that and at the end of episode 3, but we got extended car travel, and then we got to see Joel and Ellie camp, and we got to learn more about, or I guess probably in the show the first time, about Joel's love for coffee and the outbreak, since we won't get to learn about that from them being in the hotel, which is what we got in episode 2 of the show. So I am sad that we don't get to go back to the hotel. Didn't really expect us to, but then that comes into my next little complaint, is since we don't get to go to the hotel, we don't get to have the same outcome and real scary spooky section where Joel and Ellie are in an elevator and Joel boosts Ellie up, and then he falls down and is in the basement of this hotel where there's a bunch of rats, and there's infected, and it's real scary. And then by the time that Ellie and Joel meet back up, that's when Joel is being choked out, and then Ellie picks up Joel's gun and shoots the hunter that was choking out Joel. And I think that scene is a lot better done in the game, because we got something similar here. After Joel runs into the first hunter who's pleading to be hurt and asking for help, and then they drive. That scene was done a little bit differently. Joel doesn't get dragged out of the car. Ellie doesn't get dragged out of the car. So that plays out a little bit differently. I don't think that's too major of a thing. But then Ellie has to go hide in another room by crawling through a little hole in the wall while Joel has a shootout. And then somebody sneaks up on Joel and um, knocks him down to the ground and starts choking him out with the gun. And then Ellie comes out, and the gun that she stole in the previous episode, which I forgot to mention in my review, I was a little bit disappointed about that because I was like, oh, this is setting up. This is not going to set up a way for a scene in the game that I really liked to happen for it to appear. But Ellie grabs the pistol. Oh, and I forgot to mention that at the beginning of the episode, it shows Ellie playing around with the pistol in a bathroom in the mirror, kind of just excited to have it. But so she shoots him, doesn't kill him, and then that guy is pleading for his life. And then Joel tells Ellie to go back through the hole, and then he ends up killing. Brian was the dude's name. But yeah, and then we get a thing I'm disappointed about is we don't get to see Joel majorly disappointed in hurting Ellie, which I think it added a lot to the game and to their story development. Of Joel being upset, saying, I'm glad I didn't get my head blown off by a goddamn kid. So he's actually, he feels bad for Ellie. He's like, you shouldn't have to do this at your age. And it's sweet, but again, I have bias. I am very biased towards the game and think that the writing hits a little bit harder that way for a future scene in the game where he does end up apologizing to Ellie, and he's like, hey, it was either him or me back there, and teaches her how to shoot a hunting rifle. And then after she provides cover fire for him in an area, he then hands her a pistol. He's like, how about something a little bit more your own size, and goes through the whole routine. It's for emergencies only. Where the safety is, and just for Ellie to treat it with respect. So you get something kind of similar to that, because he does end up giving Ellie the gun back, but then he gives this entire little speech about how to grip it, but he doesn't tell her to put the safety on. And I don't know, maybe I'm kind of gun safety 101. That you should always have your safety on and only off whenever you have the intention to shoot. I do think it's nice in the show that Joel, whenever he does hold a gun, he does not always have his finger on the trigger. He'll keep his finger off to the side, which is good gun safety. But that's a very minor complaint that I have. But yeah, so him and Ellie are on the run. We get to see this group of hunters and this new character named Kathleen. She's interrogating this doctor on where Henry and Sam are at, because she thinks that Henry and Sam are the ones who killed these three hunters. And then we get to see Tommy's voice actor from the Last of Us video game, Jeffrey Pierce, I believe is his name. He's actually one of the big guys of the hunter group. And it's so hard not to hear Tommy's voice when he speaks. But I'm excited that the people who were big characters in the game are getting to have some role in the TV show, and that they're not being forgotten. And I think that they really enjoy being a part of this series. So I enjoyed that aspect. And then getting to see Joel take cautious steps in order for them not to be tracked is interesting and cool. But then at the end of the episode, Henry and Sam, I don't know if they were already in the building where Joel and Ellie decided to camp out, or if Joel's little glass trap did not work because it ends on like a little cliffhanger where Joel and Ellie are held at gunpoint by Sam and Henry. So that's a little bit different than how it happens in the game too. But I'm really curious on what's going to happen next episode. But this kind of does lead into something else that I'm concerned about with this show is season one actually supposed to cover all of the first game? Because if it is, guys, we only got what, 5 more episodes? And we've got a lot to cover. And if I remember from the trailers, we even got stuff to cover from the Left Behind DLC. And this episode, they're still in that city, so I'm excited to see where they go, but then I'm also nervous because I'm like, if they are going to try to finish the first game in season one, I feel like they're going to have to rush it because there's so much more to do. And I mean, I know I've been talking about the game and kind of spoiled some of it, but I'm going to try to do my best not to spoil future things in the game. I'll only spoil things that happen around the time that they do in the show, to kind of like the parallels and where they stray a little bit, so that way if anybody watches this review, they won't completely get spoiled about what might happen next episode. And I'm always curious what they're going to do with the show in the next episode, and I don't watch the preview for the next episode because I like going in as blind as possible, even though I have a pretty good idea of what is going to happen. But yeah, no, there was just action, Ellie and Joel bonding moments, and I really just loved this episode. I think it is probably my favorite out of the 4 that we've had so far. I mean, I have my complaints to where I think things in the game were done a little bit better. But then again, a lot of that can just come down to me being biased. And I'm looking forward to having a discussion with you guys in the comments. And then even with my other friends who don't watch the show right at release like I do, but they'll watch it with their family and friends. And not all of them are as diehards as I am, but getting to hear all these other opinions, and it's a lot of fun. Shout out to my good friend DJ. He's another Last of Us fanatic, but it's always fun to talk with him and our friend Ari after these episodes come out, because DJ and I are both diehard Last of Us fans, and our views normally line up pretty well. And then we get to have discussions and bring up things like, oh yeah, no, I didn't think about that, or I couldn't really articulate that based on this. And this video is always just me ranting, rambling, first impressions, raw reactions, to where I can just talk in front of the camera. But yeah, so I really wish I could get them on a video or do like a podcast with them where it'd be a little bit more edited, but they're both kind of camera shy. But yeah, so what I had made mention in the last video is, come March, once the series has ended, all 9 episodes have aired, I do actually want to take the time and create a well-edited video of my thoughts as a series as a whole, what I think they did well, and kind of give my final thoughts for each episode, because I'm probably going to try to actually rewatch some of the episodes leading up to the final episode, so that way I can have all of my initial raw reactions, and then I can have a well thought out where things have really gotten to sit and I've really gotten to think about the episode. Because I'll be honest, last week's episode, I enjoyed it, and then the next day I felt a little bit down about it, but then after getting to talk with other people and them making valid points, I was like, okay, yeah, I can't agree that it was a good episode. Because yeah, I went from thinking it was a pretty good episode, being like, you know what, maybe it's the weakest in the series, and being like, no, it has its place, and people made very good points and counterexamples to my opinion, but my opinion still stays the same, but I can respect everyone else's opinion about last week's episode. Anyway, leading into that, if you guys want to be a part of this final review, I would love to include your guys' comments. So if you want to go and look at my previous unedited raw Last of Us reviews and leave a comment about your thoughts on that episode, I would love to read them. I'll probably make a playlist to try to make this a little bit easier for you guys to find, and then you guys can just quickly go comment, and you can watch the videos if you want. I'm very surprised by how many views all these have been getting for a channel my size, but I appreciate you guys coming by, and I always appreciate reading comments. Comments are probably something that means way more than likes or subscribers. So if you guys do make it this far and you leave a comment, it is greatly appreciated, and it brings quite a bit of joy to me, to be completely honest. But yeah, so I think I've rambled on long enough. I'm gonna try to include a rating. I think I forgot to include a rating for last week's episode. So last week, I'll give a 7.5 out of 10, and I think I can bump up the first episode to an 8 out of 10 now. But this one, I'm giving a 9.5 out of 10, because it just, I enjoyed Ellie's joke books and just references to the game, and where they did go different, I think they did it well enough to where I don't have too much distaste in my mouth for them not following the game. I think what they have done, they're doing it well. They're doing it well. So I will see you guys next week for the review on episode 5. I'm excited to see what they do.